Here's what you get on today's episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business.
I couldn't get a paid speaking engagement until I wrote and published a book. And so then I realized the book is nothing more than an arrow, and that arrow points to your website, and on your website you have a highlight video, and that's the whole purpose of the book. So I've learned that the world's greatest marketing secret for entrepreneurs in the history of business is to write and publish a book, and then use that book as a platform from which you stand on to do speaking, coaching, and consulting.
The adventure of entrepreneurship and building a life and business you love, preferably at the same time, is not for the faint of heart. That's why Heather Pierce Campbell is bringing you a dose of guts, grit, and great business stories that will inspire and motivate you to create what you want in your business and life. Welcome to the Guts, Grit, and Great Business Podcast, where endurance is required. Now here's your host, the legal website warrior, Heather Pierce Campbell.
Okay, welcome. Hello, I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. I'm super excited to bring you an individual who I've actually known about his work for some time now, but we recently connected on LinkedIn. Patrick Snow. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi, Heather. I'm thrilled to be here. Super excited to chat today.
Super happy to have you. So for those of you listening, if you are not familiar with Patrick's work, Patrick Snow is an international best-selling author, professional keynote speaker, publishing, speaking, and book marketing coach. He first discovered his gift for speaking at the age of 17 while giving the pregame speeches to his high school football team. I love that. Since then, Patrick has electrified more than 3,500 audiences on 4 continents to achieve their individual and organizational destinies. As a publishing coach, he has mentored more than 1,200 clients throughout the world to successfully publish their books. Many of these clients have also gone on to become speakers, coaches, and consultants as well. So there's a lot more that we could talk about when it comes to Patrick's background and the things that he's done. One of my favorites, Patrick, and I know you and I were connecting right before this, but I had a sibling go to school. Actually, 3 siblings go to school in Montana. One of them played volleyball at University of Montana.
Oh, wow. The Grizz.
The Grizz, yes.
I'm class of 91.
Super fun. So she was behind you a few years, but I've spent a lot of time in Montana and out there visiting schools in Montana. It's a good spot.
Yeah, I love it there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, welcome. I'm super excited to have you here today. I feel like there's so much that we could talk about.
Well, thank you so much. That could very well be the best introduction that I've ever written. So thank you for so eloquently reading it.
Well, it was longer than that. And truthfully, I wanted to get to some of the rest of it because for people listening, how I was actually first introduced to your work was through your book, Creating Your Own Destiny. And I know that you have since written at least 1, maybe 2 books.
Yeah, we got 3 altogether. Creating Your Own Destiny, The Affluent Entrepreneur, and Boy Entrepreneur. And
awesome.
Really, I'm just a business ownership advocate, helping people try to get more time, more money, more freedom, more health, more love, more happiness in life by transforming your passions into your profession. And I love that, and that's what I do.
Well, I know there's a lot we can dig into. I'd love for you to take the audience back to where your either path or love of entrepreneurship started.
Wow, I was born and raised in Michigan. My father was a school teacher. My mother was a nurse, and I was the 4th of 5 children. And they taught me I could do anything in the world that I wanted as long as I was willing to work hard enough at it. And they said, you can buy anything that you want as long as you pay for it yourself. And I remember my mother worked nights, and in the 8th grade, she said, if you want clean clothes, this is how the wash machine works, and this is how the dryer works. And oh, by the way, if you want food, here's how to cook for yourself. And so I guess all of us siblings became very self-reliant very early. And they provided lunch money, and that was it. And so if we wanted anything else, we had to go out and work for it. So my first entrepreneurial experiences were shoveling snow in the winters and then mowing grass in the summers. And I made a little bit of money doing that. And then that evolved to about 1983 in the 7th grade, I started selling Detroit Free Press subscriptions door to door in the town about an hour and a half outside of Detroit. And I would make a $1 commission on every Sunday paper that I'd sell. And then if someone signed up for a daily paper, I'd make a $2 commission. And if they signed up for a daily and a Sunday, I made $3. And so there I was, 13 years old, making $100 a night, working 2 hours at a time. And it was amazing. And I thought, my goodness, I'm making like 10 times more than what you make at minimum wage of $3.35 an hour. And so I loved it. And that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. And I've never looked back, and I've never been able to just work for the man. I had to always do my own deal because I wanted to be compensated based on my efforts, not on somebody else's opinion of my efforts.
I relate so strongly to your story. I came from a family of 6 kids. We got probably very similar lessons early on. We had to pay for all of our extracurriculars, half of our clothing, anytime we wanted to do anything with friends or do anything, like we had to pay for it starting in 7th grade. But when I was 5, I got the lecture from Dad about, saving your money and getting good grades. And so when you were selling press subscriptions, right, I was 7 or 8 and I was knocking on doors in our neighborhood asking, could I rake leaves? And,
yeah,
I look at it now and my kids, like one of my children has just turned 8, and I honestly cannot imagine setting him loose on the neighborhood.
Well, I love this quote that says this: if you're born poor, you die rich. But if you're born rich, oftentimes you die poor. And obviously that stereotype doesn't work for everybody, but I believe that when your parents and my parents install that work ethic into us, then we needed to learn how to hustle and make things happen for ourselves. And I think some of the challenges with some people today that are born into money, they never develop that work ethic. And because of that, they develop an entitlement mentality. And eventually, sooner or later, the trust fund runs out and they are forced to make it on their own and they don't have the skill set. So better to give a man a fish, teach a man a fish so we can, eat for a lifetime than to give a man a fish so we can eat for a day.
That's right. Well, and the other thing, I think one of the most significant components that is missing in the education of our children today is around finances, around like a good basic financial education. And, I have to say that most kids don't get that in their households. Most children don't. Whether they
certainly don't get it at school either.
No, that's right. That's right. And so without some of that real life experience of actually learning what it takes to create something, create value in the world that people will pay for, right? Some people end up really learning that painfully in their adult life.
Yeah.
So it started young for you. Take us forward a few years. Like, when did you decide to go out on your own and do your first thing as an entrepreneur?
Well, I think I always had a part-time job in high school, and I was an athlete. I played 3 sports, and so I was always busy either working or at sports or whatever. And so maybe that's why I could only get B's in school, because I didn't have any time to study. But my goal was to play professional football. And I went off and played college football, had a career-ending back injury, and I was kind of devastated. I had no idea what to do or where to go, and I took this philosophy class. And we read a book titled Man's Search for Himself by Dr. Rollo May. And in that book, we read that at birth, the physical umbilical cord to our parents is cut. But oftentimes in life, the psychological umbilical cord is never cut. So we end up like a dog tied like by a chain in our parents' front yard, only going as far as the length of that chain allows us to go. So there I was, 18 years old. My pro football career had come to an end in terms of my goals for pursuing that. And so I remember just being passionate about personal growth and development and quotes and goal setting and, predetermining your destiny in advance. And so I just transferred all my athletic discipline into my academics and my career. And I started reading every personal growth and development book that I could find. Og Mandino, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Dr. Stephen Covey, Mark Victor Hansen, everything that I could get my hands on. I probably read 2,000 books in the next few years. And up until through high school, I probably read 100 books, only those that were assigned to me by the teachers. So I graduated from the University of Montana, took 1 speech class in high school, 1 speech class in college. I moved to Seattle. I got in corporate sales, and I really had this passion for speaking. And so from 22 to 26 years old, I gave 300 speeches. And I failed 300 times to get paid. I got free breakfast and free dinner and free pens and free mugs and free food. And finally, being a Christian, I had to come to Jesus talk. And it's like, what am I doing wrong here? Why can't I make it in this business? And the answer that I got back completely changed my life, because I heard this from the universe. And the quote was this, that if you want what others have, you must do what others have done, and you'll get what others have gotten. And so the way that I launched my speaking career, my writing and publishing and coaching career, was I simply sat down over the next 5 years and I wrote and published the first edition of Creating Your Own Destiny. And then after that book came off the press about 20 years ago, then I started getting paid speaking engagements and then coaching clients, and other people asked me how to write a book, and I just kind of fell into coaching people how to do that. So really, I wasn't able to go full time into this personal growth and development space until the book was published. And up until then, it was just a hobby, but I certainly love doing it. And my soul level mission and goal is to love, serve, heal, and inspire. And the way I do that is through speaking and coaching and consulting and books.
Mm. Well, I love knowing more about your story and the, the role that publishing a book played for you. It became that like authority piece, that authority platform that launched you into a new level of your work and business, it sounds like.
Well, everybody on planet Earth is an expert at whatever they're passionate about. The kindergartner is an expert at coloring. The teenager is an expert at video games. The senior citizen is an expert at, pharmaceutical drugs. And so until we have the word author next to our name on our business card, no one in the media is going to recognize that credential or that we are the authority in that subject matter. And so I've always been the same speaker, even when I was 22, getting free food and free parking, that I am today with the $25,000 keynote speaking fee. I've always been the same. I'm still an underdog, and I'm still, trying to help people out. But having those credentials after your name has really opened some doors over the years.
I believe it. Well, in reading your book, the Creating Your Own Destiny book, your love not only of personal development, but even your quotes. One of my favorite things about that book is actually how you sprinkle in, so much of the wisdom that you have used yourself through quotes and inspirational stories, which is really fun to see. Talk to me, share a little bit about your perception of the relationship of personal development work to our business success.
Well, I think we could go a little bit further. I mean, with all the drama and chaos that's happening on the planet, and I really feel that we need to buckle down and be ready that we could have 2 or 3 or 4 years more of chaos, regardless of the election, regardless of, vaccinations or whatever else. I just think we're headed for a lot of chaos. And I think whether it's in business, in life, or just as human beings, early on, we have to make a decision. And the decision that we have to make is, are we a victim or are we a victor? And a lot of people that are looking for handouts, they want freebies, they want to be taken care of, they want free this and free that, and they want someone else to take care of them. They made a decision earlier in their life that they were going to be the victim, and that was going to be their narrative, their story. And so they have this victim mentality. And so if you're a victim, you're not going to succeed in sales. You're not going to succeed as an entrepreneur. You're not going to succeed in small business. All of us have had major blows and adversities in our lives. I had 10 years of adversities between 40 and 50. Major adversities. My father passed away. I mean, this and all kinds of things. But through it all, it just always came back to victim or victor. And I chose to be a victor every single time. And I think all of us, regardless of its academics, sports, business, politics, when we choose to take 100% responsibility for our lives and for our actions, then we have the ability to predetermine our destination in advance. And to me, that's what I think it's all about. My challenge is, how do I get to those people that made a decision that, I grew up poor, or I came from a single parent family, or I was a victim of alcoholism as a child, or, I had this issue or that issue, or maybe I wasn't good in school. And so they've just carried that baggage with them their whole life. And I'm on a quest to teach people that, look, you can have anything in your life that you want as long as you're willing to work hard enough at it. And it comes back to taking 100% responsibility for your actions and knowing that there's no free lunch. So I think this concept of discipline and victorness, if that is even a word, opposite of victimhoodness, comes down to a decision. And the earlier in life we make that decision, the more successful we'll be.
I agree. And I think that, one of the questions I have for you is how do you communicate with the folks, right? Because for people that are remaining in victimhood versus those that are clearly making the choice to become victors, like something's missing between those two mindsets, whether it's awareness, like even the awareness that they have a choice. How do you speak to those people that may not even recognize they're in victimhood?
Well, I try to do it as politely as possible, but sometimes I'm pretty blunt. And one of the challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs have is they don't have the ability to promote. Maybe they've never been in sales. Maybe they've never had to deal with rejection. And I tell people that, look, they're not rejecting you personally. It's just that they don't have the money to hire you or to invest in your products or services. So what I try to help people understand is that you are not paid as an entrepreneur or small business owner based on how hard you work. You are not paid based on the number of hours that you invest in your business. You're paid directly and proportional to the value that you bring to the world. So if you're not happy with your income, I tell people, look, you have to look in the mirror. And if you're unhappy with your level of income, look in the mirror and understand that you are the only ones to blame. But yet they still say to me, you know what, I can't do this or I can't do that, or I don't like speaking about myself, or I don't like standing up and fighting for me. My answer is it's okay. But I just turned 51 and I can't believe, I still feel like I'm 30, but yet, 60 is right around the corner and then 70, and you go to Walmart and you go to McDonald's and they're great organizations, but yet you walk in and you see these 65, 70, 75-year-olds and they ask you the questions, can I supersize your drink and fry order for you? Or welcome to Walmart, how can I help you? And this is how I do it. This is how I inspire that. And it says, look, if you don't transform your passions into your profession in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, you're going to find yourself in a position where you're not going to ever get employed again, and you're going to get stuck having to accept very low-paying wages, and then your best years of your life you won't be able to enjoy because you're going to be stuck working for the man, making minimum wage. And hence, this is the reason why I become a business ownership advocate, because I want people to achieve their greatest dreams, goals, and visions. And unfortunately, that takes an investment in themselves. It was Benjamin Franklin who said the best investment that you can make is to empty your wallet or your purse into your head and in your mind. And when you invest in your head and in your mind, then that investment will pay off. So it's not easy. I anger a lot of people that way because they like their victimhoodness, narrative and script. But it's okay. I think what I found out is 90% of the people on planet Earth, they're just accepting a life of mediocrity. And that's their soul level journey, and I've accepted that. But then there's 10% of us, people like you and I and the listeners to this podcast, that invest in themselves and they're willing to go after their dreams, goals, and visions, and they're not going to stop until they get it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's so much good, juicy stuff in what you just said. And one, I wholeheartedly agree. One of the ways that I view entrepreneurship and the path to entrepreneurship is I really feel like it is one of our greatest opportunities for not only the expression of ourselves in the world, but our greatest expression of good in the world, right? Like to really use, and, one of the questions that I have next for you is for people that, currently have a decent paying job, or they're comfortable, they're getting by, they're relatively happy with work, but they're not pursuing their passion. How do you talk to them about the risk, right? And the potential reward? Because entrepreneurship is not for everybody, right? Let's be clear that even the statistics you used about the 10% and 90%, at least when I looked at it at a certain point, it looked like less than 10% of people ever actually choose the path of entrepreneurship. It's a slim, right? It's a slim percentage.
Well, the first thing I would say is that there's an old quote. Maybe, I don't know if I termed this or somewhere else I heard it, but it says you work 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to make a living, but you work 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. or 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. to make a life. So you put in your first 8 hours a day to pay the bills, and then you put in another 4 hours a day to, chart your destiny. So I tell all my clients, keep your day job. Day job is the best seed money that you can have because you don't have to pay it back. And then you can take that day job income as seed money invested into your passion. And I believe that when it comes to purpose and passions, I believe that when we come into this embodiment of being a human being at a soul level, I believe we have a family and career, goal and mission. Most of us achieve that in our 20s, 30s, 40s. And then we have a soul level mission and goal. And that soul level mission and goal might be stopping human trafficking, saving the whales, cleaning up the ocean. And when we focus our time and our effort and our energies on our soul level mission and goal of making this human race and this planet that we live on a better place to live, then the soul and the heart creates an unlimited amount of energy and an unlimited number of years into your 80s, 90s, and 100s. Look at Jimmy Carter, for goodness sakes, still building houses for Habitat for Humanity. And I don't know, I think he's like 94 years old or something because he has a soul level mission and goal. So the challenge we have as entrepreneurs, we need to identify our passions, identify our soul level mission and goal and our purpose. And when we combine our purpose and our passions together with a mindset of service to others, then everything falls into place and it's not work. And there's an old quote that says, when you do what you love, you'll never have to work another day of your life. And that's the way that I feel. And that's what I try to coach and teach.
Well, I got goosebumps when you talked about the soul level goal, because I believe the same thing. And that may not be the word that I use, but it makes it so clear. And I think for people who are living that, they know exactly what you're talking about, right? And for people that are not, I think they always feel like something's missing.
Well, when you have a soul level mission and goal, and not to, get into a faith-based conversation here, but I believe when you do God's work and you serve humanity based on your soul level mission and goal, then you're protected. You don't need to worry about flus and viruses, and you don't need to worry about any of that stuff because you're doing such great work that you just don't have time to get bogged down with any of these earthly challenges. And that's what it's about. It's about service.
Well,
because the thing is, you can't take anything with us from this earth. The only thing that we can take is what we've served. And that imprint will stay with us forever.
That's right. The impact on other people. Yeah. And, regardless of people's either religious beliefs, spirituality beliefs, I consider myself a spiritual person. And same thing. I believe that when we tap into knowing what our contribution is to the greater good, things just become easier.
And that's when you become an unstoppable force of power, fully capable of achieving your destiny. And I love what Zig Ziglar said on that subject matter. He said, you can have everything in life that you want as long as you help enough other people get what they want. So that's our job as an entrepreneur, helping other people achieve their dreams, goals, and visions. And when we do that, somehow, miraculously, our dreams, goals, and visions are right there behind them, becoming realized.
That's right. That's right. So let's take this conversation. Share with us some of the big goals and dreams that you have realized that are your favorite to share about in your life.
Well, I think I have, maybe ever since I was selling Detroit Free Press subscriptions door to door, I loved having that freedom, that independence, having the ability to set my own hours, to not have a boss, to be able to work on my own, work on myself, meet people, get to travel. And I've been so blessed as a professional keynote speaker. I've spoken on 4 continents all over the world. Most of those trips have been paid for by the corporations and associations that have booked me. So I've got to meet a huge network of people all over the world. And then not just to meet them, but then have them put me on stage and inspire their audience. I mean, I think to myself, if my boys could just see me now, because I feel like I'm an underdog just going after my dreams, goals, and visions, but they put you up on the red carpet as a celebrity. And it's not about that. It's about service, as we said. But that experience of being able to travel the world and impact people's lives and to be able to make a very good living as a result of it. And then when you come home, to be able to have the freedom to live anywhere that you want to live. And after graduating from University of Montana, I spent 21 years in Seattle. And then when my boys graduated from high school and college, I moved to Maui, Hawaii 7 years ago. And people ask me, well, why did you move to Maui, Hawaii? And my answer is, have you been there before? And if you've been there, then you know. And the answer is because I could. They're like, well, how can you make a living in Maui, Hawaii? I'm like, all you need is a phone line, internet access, and a cell phone. And that's what I love about probably the greatest milestone that I've had professionally is to be able to have a completely work from home virtual business in which I can love, serve, heal, and inspire others without having to be tied to a building or tied to a geographic location without having a boss. And I think I quit my last job about 17 years ago. And I don't even know what it's like to commute. I don't know what it's like to have to shower before 10 a.m. in the morning. I just can't fathom that anymore. And I did that for 15 years early in my career. And it's just like, never again. Life is too short to miss out. So, yeah. And you know what? I searched all different kinds of ways to achieve this lifestyle. And it was entrepreneurship, which was the way that I found.
Well, it's, your relationship to your why, right? All the reasons that you chose entrepreneurship in this path. When I talk to audiences, I ask them to go back. First of all, I ask them how many of themselves consider themselves entrepreneurs, right? The vast majority of the people that I speak to are in the entrepreneurship world. And then I always ask, how many of you chose it because you thought it would be easy? I never get a hand up, right? That's not why. And I say, okay, so then why did you choose entrepreneurship? And it's the things you're talking about. Freedom, like the ability to choose who I want to work with and the work that I want to do and to not be told by somebody else when I'm going to show up and who I work with and all of these things. And, and for me, that includes also more stability. A lot of people see jobs as stability. But I've seen so many times how that just gets taken away in a heartbeat and you have no control when you're working for somebody else.
Well, I was laid off twice at 9/11 and then laid off again in 2002 in high-tech sales. And I think the other thing that maybe we don't talk about enough as an entrepreneur, in all those years in corporate sales, I would make the sale. And then we would have operator errors, machinery errors, computer errors, in which whatever I sold, it actually wasn't delivered at the time in which I committed it to being delivered. So one of the things that I love about being an entrepreneur, being the speaker and the coach, is that I am the deliverable. So I get to not only make the sale, but I am in complete control as to the product and the value and the services that are delivered on the timetable and on the budget that the customer is looking for. So there's never again, oh, I'm sorry, but we failed. And so many times in corporate America, I had to apologize. But you're right. Just because you have a day job today doesn't mean you're going to have it tomorrow. And that's the problem of that false blanket of security is mergers and acquisitions and downsizing. All kinds of things happen. There's no such thing as job security. So our challenge is to create income security. And the way to do that is to own and operate your own business.
I love that. I'm such a fan. So, you've obviously accomplished some really fabulous things. Some of your big goals and getting on stages and publishing books. You're a professional and authority in your space. Talk to us about what it's taken to get through some of the hard times, right? One of the things that I like to talk about on this podcast is mindset, particularly in relationship to hard times and what it takes not only as people, but entrepreneurs to make the right kinds of decisions to get through those times.
Well, I would say I mentioned my 40s. So my 40s were probably the toughest 10 years of my life. Right around 40, my older son goes off to college. Then shortly thereafter that, my mother's diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. And then after that, I'm a cat person. My favorite cat's killed by the neighbor dog. Then after that, I went through a divorce. I was married to a lovely woman for 20 years, but ultimately she fell in love with a coworker. And so I had to bless her and forgive her and send her on her way. And today we're still great friends. And I'm very happy that they're married to this day. So that was a challenge. And then what else? I moved to Hawaii, and then things in Hawaii were fine for a while. And 18 months later, my dad comes down with pancreatic cancer. And I watch him go from 220 pounds to 120 pounds. And then unfortunately he passes, 9 months after that. And then there was 2 or 3 years of healing from that. And all through the while, I had a spiritual awakening about 10 years ago. And now I view myself as more of a spiritual Christian. And which is wonderful because I've learned about energy work and clearing negative energy and staying away from toxic people and helping other people overcome the wounds that I've had. And I feel like at 51, I'm stronger than I've ever been before because of going through that. But how did I get through it? I think two things. There's an old saying that says fear and God cannot occupy the same space. So we need to understand that we have to trust in God, trust in the universe, trust in source. And then secondly, we need to believe in ourselves. And once we believe in ourselves, then we're going to get through all of this. And then third, we need to understand the concept of unconditional love. And when you have unconditional love for all things, all beings, all people, that power, that's the most powerful words in in our language is unconditional love. And so those three things, faith in God, belief in myself that my parents taught me, and then practicing unconditional love, not only loving myself, but loving those people who maybe betray you. And knowing that, tough times don't last, but tough people do. And there's an old quote that I saw on Facebook, and it shows this baby wolf. And the baby wolf has got like one arrow, in its back, and it's on the ground whimpering. And then there's this adult wolf, and it shows the adult wolf has got about 30 arrows in its back, and it's reaching down to that baby wolf. And it kind of shows that, you can't really teach and coach that which you haven't been through yourself. So I realized that every adversity that does not kill us strengthens us. And so that's a process that unfortunately we have to all go through.
I agree. And I think there's something really powerful about midlife, and for anybody listening who's been through any of the kind of, major transitions that you've spoken about, and we all face them at some point in one form or another, right? Whether it's the loss of a parent, and I've been through, the loss of a parent as well. So sorry to hear about your consecutive losses. It's so hard when you have that close together. But I think there is something, as hard as it is, I think there's something pretty magical about midlife and the separation that we get to have from, and just, I think, greater awareness of truth, but the separation from childhood and thoughts and things that actually were never true, that we can see more clearly now, right? And the releasing of so much. I mean, getting to the point of compassion for all things and for all people, I think takes a lot of release, a lot of letting go. And to be able to do that, you have to get to the clarity piece first, right? And that you just get to clarity through struggle.
And I agree with you that a lot of people don't find out about their soul level mission and goal, or they don't understand or live their purpose until they realize it's not about themselves. It's the people that are planting trees, realizing that they'll never sit in that shade. That's the purpose of this earth, is to serve others. And I think when we discover that purpose, and then we start to live that out, then everything in every obstacle in our way clears its path for life of service.
Let's shift. We've got a few minutes left, but I want to hear about the work that you're doing now, right? In the publishing space, in the coaching space. Talk to me a little bit about who you help, who are your people, what are they up to, how are you serving them?
Well, I've learned over the years, because again, I couldn't get a paid speaking engagement until I wrote and published a book. And so then I realized the book is nothing more than an arrow, and that arrow points to your website, and on your website you have a highlight video, and that's the whole purpose of the book. So I've learned that the world's greatest marketing secret for entrepreneurs in the history of business is to write and publish a book, and then use that book as a platform from which you stand on to do speaking, coaching, and consulting. And so what I do as a writing and publishing coach is I help my clients navigate about 100 decisions that they need to make. Most people make 20 or 30 decisions correctly, and that's why they might, fail in that business. People say, Patrick, how'd you sell 1 million books? How'd you get your book in 5 languages in 108 countries? Well, I spent 20 years doing it. And so my role as their coach is to lock arms with them, help them make 100 out of 100 decisions correctly, so that they have a world-class 250-page book that they own 100% of the rights of. And then secondly, I'm a book marketing coach. So now I help them become a best-selling author. And as they achieve that status, it opens more doors. And then I also become their professional speaking coach, giving them the confidence not only to make audiences laugh and cry at the same time, but also to market themselves as a speaker. And then the last thing that I do that I love maybe more than anything else is I'm a coaching coach. So I teach the business model, the revenue side, the prospecting side of succeeding as a life coach, business coach, health coach, weight loss coach, relationship, whatever you want. The coaching industry is a $1 billion plus industry in North America. And I teach and coach people how to triple or quadruple their income in that space. And I love that because I've been doing this for 25, 30 years. So every mistake that I've made, I show them how not to do that. Everything that I've done that's worked, I tell them, here's why you should do that. So that's what I do.
Well, I love the combination of skills that you have, that come from your experience living in this space, the publishing, the coaching, the consulting. And, I think the challenge that so many entrepreneurs face, and it's truthfully the same challenge that attorneys face or anybody that's going into business for themselves, is you essentially show up as a technician wanting to do a certain thing, right? And you suddenly have to learn everything that it takes to actually do that as a business, as an entrepreneur. Very different set of skills.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of people that become speakers because they like to speak. A lot of people that become coaches because they've got great experiences. But what they don't understand is in business, nothing happens in business between buyer and seller until an offer is made. And you being the business owner, your listeners being that coach or that consultant, they need to be the one making the coaching offer. And if they don't make that coaching offer, people are going to assume that they're a millionaire, a billionaire, they don't have time, that they don't care. And so later I'll make a coaching offer as we wrap up, offering people a complimentary consultation. So I tell all my clients, don't ever use the word free because free is cheap. You need to offer complimentary sessions. And when you do that, you're giving people the ability to trial and error your services. You're giving people the ability to test drive the car or to kick the tires. Imagine trying to go to a car dealership and you're trying to buy a car, but then they don't ever let you take it for a test drive. And this is what we need to do in the field of coaching and speaking and consulting, is allow that prospect the opportunity to learn what it is to work with us.
No, I agree. I think there's a lot of power in that actually across a lot of industries that gets missed. I even think of the legal industry and what I call it the black box legal model. It doesn't serve people in the way that it really should. And so much of what people need is this, what you're talking about, the ability to know, like, and trust somebody so that they do want to establish a relationship and they will hire them. And without that, it's so much harder. So I love the concept of giving people the chance to kick the tires. Where do you like to connect with people? For people that are thinking like, I would like to learn more about Patrick, I want to connect with him, see what he's up to. Where do you like for people to connect with you?
Well, I always give out my private cell phone number. And the reason why I give out my private cell phone number is because there's an amazing thing happens. When I give out my private cell phone number, people give me their private credit card number. Now think about that for a second. Nobody wants to give out a private cell phone number. And the reason why they don't want to do that is they're worried about, millions and millions of people, hassling them. And let's face it, we're not celebrities. So we as entrepreneurs need to be accessible. So anybody that's listening today that's interested in a complimentary, no obligation, 30 to 60 minute writing, publishing, book marketing, speaking, or coaching consultation, I'd be honored and thrilled to offer a complimentary session. The best way to reach me is just send me a text.
I love
My
it.
private cell phone number is 206-310-1200. Again, 206-310-1200. My main website is patricksnow.com. Again, patricksnow.com. There they can send me an email. But again, the challenge with email is sometimes we all have spam blockers that prevent that. So I always tell people, send me a text with your name and your time zone, and I'll get back and offer you a complimentary session.
That's awesome. Well, and for folks listening, you can find this information and more about Patrick at the show notes. So go to legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast, and you'll see Patrick's information there. Patrick, it's been such an honor and joy to talk with you today. I love your approach. I love the ways that your wisdom shows up across numerous areas. It's one of the things that I loved about your book. What final thoughts do you want to leave listeners with today?
A couple, three things. Number one, I challenge people to think it, ink it, believe it, and achieve it. Think about their dreams, goals, and visions. Or think about your book and then ink your book or your goals into paper. and then believe in yourself and you'll achieve anything you want. But yet people have self-doubt because they're concerned about what other people think. And I always tell people, well, remember what Les Brown said, never let someone else's opinion of you determine your reality. So my question is back to your readers and listeners and audience is, if not you, then who? If not this, then what? If not here, then when? If not now, then when? Right? Now is the time to get started. And finally, I firmly believe, as you'll see in the book, Creating Your Own Destiny, I believe that my mantra in life is only those who can see the invisible can achieve the impossible. And ultimately, it's the belief in your vision that holds the key to creating your own destiny.
So true. Those are very powerful words. I mean, and it reminds me, I'll put links in the show notes as well to each of your books so that people can check those out, because I think it'd be fun for people to have access to those. Patrick, I so appreciate you. Thank you for joining me today. I really look forward to being in touch and chatting with you again at some point.
Well, congratulations to you, Heather, and all your success. I'm honored and thrilled to be here. I'd love to be a guest again at some point in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Guts, Grit, and Great Business Podcast. We hope that we've added a little fuel to your tank, some coffee to your cup, and pep in your step to keep you moving forward in your own great adventures. For key takeaways, links to any resources mentioned in today's show and more, see the show notes, which can be found at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, and if you enjoyed today's conversation, please give us some stars and a review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast so others will find us too. Keep up the great work you are doing in the world, and we'll see you next week.